first rule of booktubing, and probably YouTubing in general. If it seems like a good idea, think about it again, and then again. If 5 minutes from then it doesn't seem like such a good idea anymore, well, probably isn't. Example of bad idea. Crying on camera because you cannot control your emotions. Whoops. Alright, considering my first video for my The Fault in Our Stars review, I felt like there needed to be a second part just because there was just so much feelings and just crying, and I really didn't get to say all that I wanted to say because I was choked up with emotion and more emotion, and that's pretty much the gist of it. So yeah, there were a few things I didn't get to say that I would really like to say now. Like, first off, if you didn't pick this up from my review, I loved The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. It's a very touching book, very well written. It wasn't just that it was sad. I've read plenty of sad books that were, you know, pretty unremarkable, I think, as far as writing and plot goes. The Fault in Our Stars was fantastic. Let me start first with John Green's amazing writing style. I've been known to crack a joke or two about older men writing through younger teenagers, especially when they're girls. It's not that I'm completely against it, it's just always really funny to see how it turns out. Sometimes they do a really good job, like you guys know I love Maximum Ride. But sometimes those older, wiser authors can't help but leak a little bit of themselves into that character, and you can see it. Because the girl will be talking about cute dresses or something, and then all of a sudden, politics or gardening hoses. I don't know. What do older people even do? But you know what I mean. But John Green has this remarkable talent of separating himself from the character Hazel. Maybe because he doesn't have to try that hard. If you guys watch John Green's channel, he's incredibly smart and very articulate. And he's got a great channel. My favorite of all his channels is Crash Course. I can't even tell you all the midterms you've helped me with. Thank you, John Green. And plus it's just fun to, you know, see somebody else talk excitedly about literature and moments in history that I think are great. Not sure how grammatically correct that sentence was. Moving on. Anyway, John Green, really smart guy. Hazel, really smart character. But the good news is that she's not so smart as a 16-year-old that it's unrealistic. It fits her character. It fits where she is in this fictional world. Hazel Lancaster spends a lot of her time reading, and her two best friends are her parents, who are also very smart. She's kind of been forced to mature very quickly, so she's already grasped some of the concepts that your favorite fictional characters are grasping in the books that you've read. Like, some of the characters you are used to are grasping the concept of death and life and love. Hazel's pretty much got death and life in the bag. Well, most of it. So this is kind of like what character development happens next, if that makes any sense to you. When your character has been forced to grow up really fast, what else is there for them to learn? Enter Hazel Grace. Anyway, back to the writing style. So Hazel is incredibly smart, and I really liked the points that she brought up, and it feels like a very real person is telling you this story. A+ John Green on managing to balance out the personality of a 16-year-old and, you know, a grown-up woman who's been through a lot. Although she has her moments in which I would call her pretentious, that's just a character flaw. That's something that is meant to be there. It wasn't done meaning for her to sound so smart and great. It's meant to make us as readers feel like, wow, this girl has seen it all, so it makes her feel like she's really seen it all. Like, you can pick it up in Hazel's attitude. Every now and again she'll be like, oh, but I know because this happened, and you're just like, Hazel Grace, you know things, but you don't know everything. So yeah, this was done purposefully. Or at least, I think so. So I'm not exactly gonna call it a complaint that Augustus and Hazel were kind of pretentious sometimes. Because character flaws are a thing that I appreciate. And I'll be honest, I think pretentiousness is one of the character flaws that authors do not showcase very often. Which is funny because how often have you met a person that thinks they know so much and you're just like, yeah, Not even sure if I'm making sense. All in all, just gonna put all of that mumbo jumbo into one sentence, Hazel's character was very well written. Then we have Augustus, who's also very well written, and his character flaws are a little bit different than the character flaws you're used to seeing in young adult fiction. First, there's pretentiousness, like I told you. And then there's the thing with the metaphors and how he over-romanticizes sometimes. You see, that is great, because you never see guys who are overly romantic, who plan things too perfectly. I'm sorry, I didn't just develop a stutter, I just forgot the word I was going to say, so I said perfectly. Normally, it's the opposite. Normally, you've got guys who just can't express their emotions. They don't know what to say. Open up to me, baby, you know I love you. No, Augustus is the opposite. He plans everything so carefully that it feels carefully planned, and Hazel doesn't like it. See, this is what's great, because these are things that happen in real life. I'm sure that when you read this book, if you've read this book, you can pick out instances that have happened to you personally or to a friend or somebody close to you. So way to go, John Green. The other was the way he treated the very delicate subject of death and cancer. Because too often you'll read a book and it's just like, oh, woe is me, I have cancer, my life is terrible. And I'm not arguing, as I don't have cancer, I can't even begin to empathize for what that might feel like. But Hazel, much like the character in An Imperial Affliction, decides not to feel sorry for herself most of the time. Most of the time. Every now and again she has a freak out, but I believe that's pretty much allowed when your life is going in that direction. I don't really doubt that there are so many similarities between Anna from An Imperial Affliction and Hazel. I mean, John Green. So. Now, another character I really wanted to talk about was the interesting character of Peter Van Houten. The book builds him up as this great pinnacle of knowledge that's going to give Hazel all these answers that she's been starving for. I think that's probably one of the best parts. Hazel's most excited to meet him because she wants answers. She wants to know what happens next. This is Hazel, who gave that long speech about oblivion and how it's just inevitable and she doesn't believe in a heaven and or whatever. She's not sure. I don't quite remember what her beliefs were, but that's Hazel Grace. However, from Peter Van Houten, who she praises pretty much like a god, she wants answers. She thirsts for answers. Now, I don't want to be that person who overanalyzes, but that seems like a pretty great metaphor to me. Or whatever literary device it could be dubbed as. So that's pretty interesting, right? And again, I'm pretty sure it was done purposefully. Or else I'm just crazy. Whichever, I'll take it. So then we get to Peter Van Houten's house, and he's just a mess. I don't know about you, but I did not see that coming. I had the feeling that something was about to go awry, but I didn't think it was going to be that, and I didn't think it was going to be in that capacity. I didn't think it was going to be that terrible. Van Houten was a horrible person. Yes, he was smart, and he wrote this beautiful book and all these things, but did he really care about Hazel or Gus? No. So that's bringing another thing in fiction that authors don't do very often. Sometimes there are just people in this world that are a mess. They're not necessarily evil. They're not necessarily heartless and just trying to kill people and take over the world and twirling their mustache. Sometimes the bad guys are just a mess. They went wrong somewhere and they don't know how to fix themselves, and that is where Peter Van Houten is. Is he intelligent? Absolutely. Is he a beautiful writer? Yes. Does it save him? You decide. See? That is what's great about this book, on top of the thousands of other things that are great about this book. It's just that there were so many moments of ambivalence where you just sit there and you think to yourself, okay, so where is this going to go? Why did he tell me this? Why did John Green write this way? Why did Hazel say this just now? Why is Peter Van Houten the way he is? What did this mean? Because this entire book feels meaningful. And you can argue with me if you want. A lot of people don't like to consider why an author did what they did, and that's fine. If that's the approach you want to take, have at it, that's all you. But I really like considering the author. I like thinking, okay, what did the author think? Like, at the end of the day, when I finish a book, yeah, it's nice to just kind of be in that fictional world, but I think it's fun to include the author. Because I think they have a pretty significant effect in the story, other than writing the story. I'm not even sure I'm making sense anymore. I'm not even sure if this review is any more eloquent than the one when I was sobbing and sniffing, which is just great. But anyway, yeah, mostly I just wanted to talk about the characters. I feel like I didn't get to talk enough about the writing style and how a lot of the things that John Green wrote about apply to real life And there's just so many great elements in this book that I just didn't get to discuss, and I'm pretty proud of myself. I got out a lot of stuff that I wanted to say. Mostly the characters were my favorite part, and I just like how he portrayed real life people that you would actually run into. So, yeah, way to put reality into fiction.